At exactly 2:17 every morning, the upstairs light turned on in the house, and after a few nights, Marcus Hale realized it was not an accident. He had just moved to a quiet city in Indiana to get away from everything and needed a cheap place to live. Marcus worked as a night shift records clerk, so being awake at odd hours was normal for him. On his first night, he was sitting on the couch going through paperwork when the television suddenly shut off. The house fell completely silent, and a yellow light appeared upstairs in the hallway. It stayed on for exactly 1 minute and then turned off. Marcus thought it was probably old wiring and went back to his work, not paying much attention. The next night, the same thing happened. The television turned off at 2:17, the upstairs light appeared, and again it stayed on for exactly 60 seconds before turning off. Marcus began to notice the pattern, but still assumed it was coincidence. By the third night, he was paying closer attention, and when the clock hit 2:17, the light appeared immediately again. That was when he realized the timing was consistent. It wasn't random. The light always came on at the same minute every night. Marcus started observing the house closely. The temperature dropped sharply just before the light appeared. The air felt heavier, and sounds seemed muted. He even tried recording himself to catch something, but nothing unusual appeared on the video or audio. Only he noticed the changes, which made them feel personal. After about a week, Marcus began hearing footsteps upstairs. They were slow, deliberate, and paced across the hallway. Whenever he moved or made a sound, they stopped. When he stayed still, they resumed. Marcus tested this carefully by shifting in his chair or coughing quietly, and each time the footsteps reacted instantly. It was clear someone or something was moving upstairs and listening to him. On the 9th night, Marcus heard a voice for the first time. It was calm, clear, and spoke shortly after the light appeared. The voice told him to stay still and wait. It did not shout, it did not threaten, it simply gave instructions. The moment the light turned off, the voice disappeared. Marcus tried using earplugs, but the voice continued, showing it wasn't coming through the air. Over the next several nights, the voice began to mention small, specific details about Marcus's daily life. It told him which room he had spent the most time in, what he ate for dinner, and when he left for work. The details were correct, and the realization terrified him. Whatever was in the house knew him. One night, the light stayed on longer than usual. The voice instructed Marcus to come upstairs. Marcus refused, and footsteps slowly descended the stairs 1 step at a time, stopping halfway down, as if waiting to see if he would move. The bedroom door handle turned slightly, but it never opened. Scratching sounds followed against the wood and continued until exactly 2:18 a.m. Then they stopped abruptly. The next morning, Marcus noticed subtle changes in the house. Hallways seemed longer, corners felt deeper, and the layout no longer felt symmetrical. He walked through the rooms carefully, realizing the house had changed while he was asleep. Over the following week, Marcus avoided sleeping in the bedroom. He stayed on the couch, sitting upright, eyes open, staring at the ceiling. The footsteps followed him even there. Sometimes he could hear them pacing directly above his head. He had not moved, but the pattern never failed. On the 14th night, Marcus finally decided he could not ignore it any longer. He followed the light upstairs as soon as it appeared. The hallway stretched far beyond the dimensions of the house he knew. Doors lined both sides, too many doors for a house of that size. Each door had a name carved into it. Many were worn with age. Some were fresh. Near the end of the hallway, Marcus saw his own name. He hesitated, but opened the door. Inside, the room was exactly like his bedroom downstairs. On the bed stood a person who looked exactly like him.
The figure turned and spoke in Marcus's voice, clearly and calmly, explaining that the house observed people over time and copied them once it learned them well enough. The light turned off. Marcus lost consciousness instantly. He woke up the next morning on the couch, convinced it had been a dream, but the house felt quieter, more settled, as if something had been completed. Marcus packed his things and left the city immediately, without telling anyone what had happened. 2 weeks later, the house was rented again to someone new. At exactly 2:17 every morning, the upstairs light turned on. It had done this for years, and it would continue because the house never forgot anyone who stayed too long.